Transition Awareness Breathing. Feeling grounded for both children and parents is essential for healthy living and learning. Join Eartha Powell on this series for tips and tools for creating a harmonious environment for learning. Transition Awareness Breathing will help you and your child find an individualized path to tackle change, promote lifelong learning, and discover new approaches to calmness.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Now, we're going to meet inside the San Antonio JCC because, well, outside, we would have a little bit of competition. So here we go. Hi, everyone. It's me, Eartha, and welcome to Transition Awareness Breathing. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Shannon, and your last name is?
It's Salmon.
Salmon.
It's S-A-L-M-O-N. But I also answer to salmon because I know salmon is hard sometimes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Shannon, for coming to my show.
You're doing an amazing thing. Anything I could ever do to help. I'm so happy you're doing this.
Oh, wow. Well, Shannon is joining me, and as you know, our session this week, is on Does Mindfulness Really Work? And so Shannon and I, we know each other from our children's school. And so at the parents teachers meeting, I had mentioned to Shannon that I teach mindfulness, have a podcast, and so graciously volunteered to be on my show because she says, oh, you teach mindfulness? And so I'm going to ask Shannon, so can you tell the audience a little bit about what you do and how maybe you came about with using a mindfulness practice?
I'm currently an attorney, and I've worked with immigration, family. As you can imagine, it's very stressful. I currently work with foster children, so I represent the state of Texas, and they go in with, unfortunately, sometimes there has to be legal remedies if there's severe abuse. So I'm currently working with child abuse, and we see, extreme cases. So it's a high stress environment, and it just keeps coming. Like the post office, just every day you get up and there's more work.
So you see an increase in the number of cases, would you say?
I can't say an increase because for me, I'm new in this position. I've only been there, I'm going on about a year now. So I'd have to ask my colleagues if they think there's been an increase or not. For me, it's an increase because that's not a world that I was working in before. So for me, they just give you some training and put you in there, and suddenly you're just dealing every day with all these stressful cases of this nature.
Wow, I can only imagine the amount of stress with the children and the separation anxieties and the trauma.
Yeah, those are all the correct words. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then one part of my coping mechanisms for stress before was I would go home and I would talk to my family. We're close, and I'm blessed with a very loving family. Well, when I go home now, I can't really say, this and this and this and this, because it's very, very sensitive topics, things that are happening. So that kind of took away one of those tools that I use to manage stress.
And like in your previous position, what kind of attorney were you at that time where you could talk to your family?
I worked a lot with immigration cases. And so while it was very sad, you had a lot of family separation, you could still talk about it at the dinner table. Oh, we got this for them, we were able to do this, and, they're fighting this case. And it wasn't the kind of thing that would be so sensitive that you can't discuss it at home. But I can't, the stuff I do these days, I can't be there at the dinner table. Oh, that's what happened today.
Yeah, very confidential.
Yes.
Right, yeah. So what's your background with mindfulness? I mean, what was the trigger as far as your use of mindfulness, relaxation in your world?
Well, I was thrust into it really unexpectedly because I was just living my life. Probably a lot of people can relate to this if they've ever had any experience with anxiety or panic attacks. You really don't see it coming. So I'm not going to get too personal, but everybody has had trauma in their life and dealt with things, and we live on planet Earth, which is very far from perfect. So everybody has stuff. So I'm just living my life, and then bam, suddenly I'm having these episodes where my heart rate is elevated. It literally feels like somebody has a gun to my head, but there's no gun there. But my body is reacting, just flooding me with adrenaline, and I can't function, and it's terrifying. So that unexpected event of those episodes starting led me down this path. So I was, I sought therapy, and I was in my therapist's office when he told me he was going to put on a meditation. I think he called it a meditation tape. And turns out it was some breathing exercises. And I thought he was crazy, I really did. But it worked, and the next thing I knew, I was leaving his office feeling with some tools in my toolkit that I could take outside of his office to use when I needed to calm myself and soothe myself. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. I'm wondering, how many sessions did you have as far as the mindfulness sort of meditation? How many sessions did it take for you to realize you did have a toolkit?
Well, Eartha, when you have an experience like that, it only took one time. I mean, I walked in a wreck, and I'm retelling, I'm in my therapist's office, so it's all confidential, so I'm telling them everything. So in the retelling, I'm getting agitated, and, I'm out of control, frankly, to be blunt. I can't control my breathing. I'm not functioning at this point. And I walk out right after that session, just calm, peaceful. This is the plan. So I knew when you have an experience like that, it doesn't take 3 or 4 times to realize this is a valuable thing that I want to learn more about.
So did you know about mindfulness before you went in?
Oh goodness, no.
None.
No, I really thought the therapist was crazy. I really did.
What convinced you to give it a try?
Well, they had been so kind to me, isn't that always the way? So they had a relationship with me, and they said, here's something I think would be useful, and I'm going to put this on. We're going to dim the lights. You're going to, sit in that chair, find yourself a comfortable position, and we're going to do this exercise. I don't know if you remember that feeling. I'd love to know when you first learned about it, if you had that similar feeling, like, this isn't going to work, this is crazy, But it's just, you can't argue with the results.
Yeah. So I'll share my story. But you mentioned some words that I like to highlight for our guest, and they're called mindfulness qualities. And you mentioned how the therapist was like kind.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that kindness is one of the mindfulness qualities. Kindness, compassion, patience, and you're this is like a validation thing, and I'm going, wow, this really works. Because when you're teaching this, you're surrounded by this, and then when one takes mindfulness classes, you're surrounded by people who are practicing. And so it's so wonderful to talk with you, to hear those qualities, to educate other people.
Right, and how helpful it is.
And how helpful it is, because as we were talking earlier, you guys, Shannon had mentioned, how the world needs more mindfulness. And I think there's a hesitation for some reason. Maybe people don't know, or there's that reaction of, this is really crazy. My experience, and my audience, they've heard this before, so bear with me, you guys. I know you guys have heard it before. That's okay. Shannon hasn't. I got into mindfulness because of my son. My son has ADHD. And that wasn't the trigger. It was the trigger was I was trying to find something that would help him. And in all my research, this mindfulness in the literature kept, mindfulness. And as a nurse, it's like, okay, mindfulness, but what exactly is the definition of mindfulness? And so I started going down that path and came across courses, and I thought, okay, this is good information. So I signed up for a class for mindfulness for children and teens. It was a certification class, and it was by Dr. Christopher Willard. And anybody in the mindfulness community knows Dr. Christopher Willard. Well, he brings out, he showed us a film by a mindfulness expert, Dr. Sears, and he did the raising exercise. The raising practice is where a group of people had in a circle, and these people were patients who were in either chronic pain or had a disease that it was like at the end stage. They were told there was nothing else that could be done. So whatever they had, they were maxed out on medications, they were maxed out on medical treatments. They were at a point of, this is it.
Medicine had done as much as it could.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so Dr. Sears asked everyone to have an open mind, and he asked everybody to hold a raisin. And so, they were holding this raisin, and he asked people to look at the raisin, touch the raisin, pay attention to its texture, smell the raisin. And as I'm looking at this, I said, this is crazy.
So you do know how it felt.
Absolutely. I said, I have wasted a lot of money. I had dropped a lot of coins on this course. However, I was at a point of, in the way I felt, when you're trying to help your child.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Forget about how, when your child is in help.
Right. And
you feel that you have to do whatever you need to do to help your child.
Exactly.
Because if you don't,
you
can see the damage that might happen to your child.
Right.
That's where I was at.
Right.
And so I said, okay, after I got over it, this is crazy. I said, if this is going to help my son, I'll hold the raisin. And, I held the raisin. And did that, like Dr. Sears asked. And at the end of that session, one of the patients said this was the first time they had ever thought about anything other than their pain. That touched me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought, there's something here, because that little simple raisin took a focus off of themselves into something that decreased their anxiety, because when their attention is off of the pain, whether it's mental or physical, then the adrenaline decreases. The cortisol decreases.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me.
Oh, sure, yeah. So when you were saying that you went to a therapist, and
you understand, just how I felt.
Exactly, and so I'm amazed. I can also understand why people are hesitant about using mindfulness, but let people know that's a normal process. Maybe it's normal when we're first starting that.
Right.
This is weird. This feels uncomfortable.
Right.
This is different.
Right. At the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you're really onto something.
Yeah. So how is your practice now as far as using mindfulness and the skills that you use in your toolbox?
Well, I have to use it often. I'm very, very far from a perfect person. I'm extremely far away from, I get up I'm a good-hearted person. I get up every morning. I say, I want to do my best. I want to treat people as kindly as possible. I mean, I have good intentions, but I'm a human. I live here on planet Earth, and every day I'll run into situations where I have to, I realize I'm having an emotional reaction. Mm-hmm. And I'm never, being a lawyer, I learned really quickly that emotions don't serve you well in court. So I'm a very caring person, so it's hard to shut that off and just go in like with the surgeon's attitude, just this is the job, this is the mission, go in, do. But you actually think better when you can think clearly. So in the courtroom, you have to develop that skill.
Yeah.
But almost every day, I have to use it and soothe myself. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's fear. For fear, the problem, as I'm sure you are well aware, the problem is that your body stops listening to you.
Yeah.
You are begging your body, look, I will get you anything. You want a new purse? I got the money. I will get it for you. You want a Frito pie after this is over? You just got to sit your butt there in that chair. The judge is you may not run. There is not a bear behind you. I swear. If you embarrass me one more time, I swear I'm going to kick your butt when I get out of here. But your body just stops listening to you. So all the things you had before that could, you were in control, you're suddenly not, and I don't know if people are going to resonate with this or not. Maybe it hasn't happened yet, but you reach a point where nothing is working. And then the adrenaline is pumping, your heart is racing, your poor body, I guess we have like this little tiny brain in the back that is helpful if there really was a bear trying to kill us. Because we would have the adrenaline to run out,
That fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
That is real.
Yes.
Flight, fight, or freeze. Yeah.
It's very strong.
Very, 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 very strong. Right.
So what I'm able, thank goodness, what I'm able now, when everything else fails, if you can stop yourself from taking in too much oxygen. So everything in your brain is telling you you're dying, there's a bear behind you, there's a gun to your head, this is real, this is happening. Take in a lot of oxygen. So I just have to, I do the 10, or I'll count back from 10 and force myself to take in a slow, measured breath and let it out. And that instantly is very helpful. It's horrible. I mean, I really have so much sympathy. I'm almost glad that I have had these experiences, though, because if I knew someone that was having a panic attack, I probably would have all these awful thoughts about them if it hadn't happened to me. Like, oh, what's wrong with them? Or, oh, maybe they're crazy or something. So I'm almost glad that I've had these experiences, as hard as they are, because then I really understand. I really know this literally feels like you're dying.
And so your mindfulness practicing in that respect is like you're showing empathy.
Yes,
it's not sympathy. It's you're looking at yourself from an outside point of view, so to speak.
Oh,
and so you're.
That's a good point.
You're looking at, so you're seeing how things are responding. And when you see other people responding,
right,
you can identify. You can say,
so much so.
And so then that causes a non-judgment approach.
Right.
A non-harmful judgment approach.
Right.
Because as your body is telling you that there may be a bear, there may be danger.
Right.
On the other side, you're saying, no, we're going to breathe. We're going to ignore the bear. We're going to breathe. In nursing, it's, nursing is everywhere. You can see
I
things.
loved will you say what you said earlier? Because I loved that sometimes it's almost like the world needs a nurse.
Yeah. I had mentioned to Shannon earlier before we started our broadcast that from a nursing point of view, as a nurse, I see things. I see the world as a patient.
Right.
I
love that.
And so Shannon had asked me, do I see how terrible the world is, and or am I in a bubble? And so from a nursing perspective, a lot of times we see patients coming in at their absolute worst. Most people don't want to come into a medical facility or urgent care. There's something triggered something to get them there. you're taught and you're trained and you train yourself to respond to find out what is going on so that you can help the patient. And if as a nurse you allow yourself to get anxious, you can't help your patient.
Oh, it's just, yeah.
You know, if you're freaking out and the patient is freaking out, nothing gets helped.
Right.
So you know, there's a lot of self-talk, calming down, and taking a breath. That with nursing, what we have to do is we really have to learn how to take care of ourselves a little bit better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because we see the world in a situation that we sometimes we tend to be super rescuers, you know, and we don't take care of ourselves.
That's beautiful.
So, and I think
it's from such a place of love, though. Everything you do is from such a place of love.
Yeah. I think that's the nursing profession. You know, and legally, I could not be a lawyer. I just couldn't. I mean,
what part of
think,
it?
I think
you're serving people.
Yes, and so as a nurse, we serve people from the health standpoint, and I think lawyers serve people from a social standpoint. You know, they're socially threatened, and so your responses and your training is to guide that situation through the legal system to help them benefit their lives and for safety. From nursing, you know, you see someone threatened from a health standpoint,
right?
And for the sake of their life, you're trying to help them stay here, right now in this world, at the best level of care and help that they can be.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know you as well as you know you, but from what I see, you'd be an amazing lawyer, and we need you. That world could really use somebody like you. Everything you bring, you know.
Maybe we could bring mindfulness into your community.
Yes, mission. I understand the assignment.
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Shannon.
You.
This is so awesome.
Thank you. I've always wanted to talk more with you. You're an amazing person. You're doing an amazing thing. Bless every part of this mission that you're on.
Oh, thank you.
Anything I could ever do, I would be so honored to help in any way.
Maybe we can talk about how to bring mindfulness into your community.
Yes, please.
Even a small group. We'll talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything.
Okay, everybody. Well,
thank you. I enjoyed talking so much I forgot if you were there. I'm sure you're lovely people.
Thank you so much and have a great day.
Be sure and pick up a copy of Eartha's new book, Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's not just an ordinary coloring book. It features 23 illustrations to stimulate thought, relaxation, and creativity for anyone between the ages of 4 and 94. Increase your positive self-talk energy. Unlock new creative paths. Transform your time once or twice a week to create beautiful art while strengthening confidence, building positive self-talk, and sensitize self-awareness. Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's available now at Amazon.com.